What is up, beautiful people? It's Wolfbrother Mythos Kushranada from the channel Frost and Fist, and welcome to this Wolfbrother Weekly. I know I recently changed the name from Wolfbrother Wednesday to Wolfbrother Weekly because I couldn't meet the Wednesday deadline. And so what I do next after that, skip 2 weeks. Where has the Wolfbrother been? So first thing I've got for you in Wolfbrother Weekly today is a life update. So the first week that I missed, we had some things going on, and I'll talk in the personal life that I was dealing with, and I'll get to that in just a second. But the day I carved out of that busy week to carve into to make a Wolfbrother Wednesday out of, had a massive accident investigation on site I had to go respond to, and I was there until like 2 in the morning doing this accident investigation. Still had to get up and teach a CPR class the next morning, so it was just a really hectic day. And then after that, you know, we did the initial investigation that night, and then there were meetings on that accident investigation. You know, meetings with the client, meetings back with, you know, the people involved. You know, there were drug tests that had to be done right away, follow-ups on clearing those drug tests, because if you guys do any OSHA work, you know that if you get into an accident in a vehicle, you know, this automatic, got to run for an immediate drug test. So, you know, just lots of stuff going on with me as an accident investigator. You know, there's a lot of things I do for my security role. Is, you know, I help with security. I'm also a safety manager, so I help out teaching the safety classes and courses. I respond to safety incidents, and I do accident investigations. And of course, on top of all that, I'm also the safety trainer, safety/security trainer. So I do trainings like CPR, active shooter, you know, awareness in events and stuff like that. So I respond to all these, I do all these trainings, I do all the accident investigations, I fill out a lot of safety paperwork and training paperwork, and so my investigations and all the meetings that went with that investigation for the rest of the week took up my Wolfbrother Weekly time. So there was that, and then the following week, the personal stuff that started happening right before all those accidents started manifesting in a way that through a series of unfortunate miscommunications, the fam and I found out that we suddenly had like 20 days to find a place to live. And so there was a lot of apartment hunting, you know, putting in applications, trying to make arrangements, and we're still not 100% got all that outlined there. I mean, we went and looked at places, applied at so many places, met with realtors. We had family meeting realtors on our behalf because of work and all that good stuff. It was just been crazy. And now we've got stuff lined up, and now we've got, like, for the next week or two, I'm going to be hustling and moving, trying to get stuff moved out of our new, current place and into a new place, all within about a week's time. So things are crazy in the Wolfbrother world right now. So that's where I've been. I'm sorry for my absence or delay with the Wolfbrother Wednesday. I've been trying to kick out some things that would take me less amount of time with the showcase videos and other stuff that we've done for you. I've got a whole bunch of unboxings I want to bring when I get back in the rhythm of things, get moved into the new place, and I'm just really excited about what we've got coming up for the channel. Also, I'll have some dedicated hobby space in this new place, so hopefully that'll work out pretty well too. What's going on hobby-wise? Well, if you guys have followed me on social media, you know, just Mythos Kushranada on Facebook or Frost and Fist on Instagram and the Twitters, and you guys see at the end where we put up all our little, where you can find us on the social medias. But I've recently finished the Vindicare Assassin for Shroud's High Lord's Army. So that's going to be part of the inquisitorial part of that High Lord's Army, where he's got Minotaurs, Inquisition, and Custodes all mixed in together. So that's really exciting. And you'll be able to see kind of some of my work, ka-chow, and later on I'll get a little showcase video for that too. So really excited. That's probably the last thing I'm going to paint as we're starting to box stuff up now and get ready to get it all moved out. Now, that's my hobby update. So I do want to go into the Q&A portion, and as I promised last time, I'm going to try and keep these a little quicker, a little briefer. So let me go ahead and get into the Q&A portion of today's show. So first question I have is Eating Beer 40K. Says, based on our last episode, head of security, so you're basically Mr. Wolf. All those stories were fun. Thank you very much, sir. Great episode. Okay, so with the mention of Mr. Worf, who is your favorite Star Trek character? And I know you like to cheat, so you can choose 3. I definitely do like to cheat. Anytime somebody asks me for a favorite or something on my channel, I do love to cheat. So, of course, I'm going to cheat within a cheat. Okay, so for one spot, I have to go with... All right, so I love the way they play off of each other. We're talking about the team up of Kirk and Spock. You know, one, the very, you know... I mean, Kirk is the ultimate Red Ranger, if you ask me. If you think about Power Rangers, you know, they always have the leader. The Red Ranger always leads by, you know, through his gut and through his heart, you know. It's just the very bold, emotional leader. I always think of Kirk is the same way. And, of course, you've got Spock, you know, the logic-driven one who actually makes the clear-headed decisions. Now, me, myself, I'm usually more prone to make emotional decisions. I'm a little more Kirk than I am Spock, but there's a lot to be said about Spock. That is just cool, calm, collected, and impressive. So that is one of my choices. 2, I always thought Riker was super cool in Star Trek The Next Generation. I just had that, I don't know, he just had that swagger about Riker. So Riker is my next choice, number 2. Just his style, the way he carries himself, you know, just Riker was the man. And then my choice number 3, I'm going to go with 7 of 9 because she is hot. So I do love a little sexiness in my life, so I'm going to go with 7 of 9. Great question, Nick. Graham Collin, my man. I apologize for missing this on my last Q&A, but that when I received the notification for your question, that episode was actually rendering. So I'm going back a whole episode to make sure I get Graham Collins' question. This is a question I have been kind of avoiding, but since I have been asked point blank, you know, your Wolfbrother doesn't know any way than to just tell it outright. So Graham Collins says, is Mythos actually your given name? Where is it from and what's it derived from? So apologies if this one has already been asked to death. This one does get asked all the time. I've just been avoiding it up to this point. So Mythos is not my actual given name, but it is it is definitely who I am. It is my identity. It's just a nickname that, you know, friends and family have called me since forever. You know, as long as I can remember, I have been Mythos. The only time I've ever not been Mythos is when I was in military school and was forced to think, be, and act a certain way. And I'll be honest with you, I because of the memories associated with being in military school, being a military kid with a drill sergeant dad, and only having my name called out when I was being, blank, you're so stupid, blank, you're so fat, blank, you're such a disappointment. You know, all I have are memories of my donor being the drill sergeant associated with that name. So I am not that person. I am Mythos, and I have been, to me, my whole life. And that name is just, you know, something. So we had a babysitter named Darko, and he found out about an incident where young chibi Mythos, who was like 5, my grandmother on my donor side was making me walk in a little, you know, neighborhood walk with them, one of those little neighborhood walk events. I can't remember. Usually it's like a 5K kind of thing. But as a kid, my legs got tired and I didn't want to walk anymore. And then, you know, my grandma called me fat. She said, well, just get up and run your chubby little butt. And so I may have picked up a rock, and I don't condone this. I was a 5-year-old at the time, and chunked it at the back of my grandmother's head. And later on, they told the story to my babysitter years later. And apparently, as a kid, I was known for having something of a small temper. And my babysitter, Darko said, well, what do you expect? You raised a little god of war, you know, and so a horseman of war. And, you know, him knowing that I'm Italian, you know, quarter Italian, he started calling me Young Mythos, the little lord of war. Young Mythos, the little horseman of war. Young Mythos, the little god of war. And so ever since then, I've been Young Mythos. Until I wasn't young anymore, then I was just Mythos. Very similarly, Darko, the same babysitter, started calling because of Raz's fascination with characters that were always in Magic, and him always reading about Magic, and him always wanting to talk about Magic. And Darko would encourage this. Darko, really worked on his imagination and creativity, and would stay up talking with us about, Magic until sometimes way past our bedtime, until like 12 in the morning. And so because, Raz's fascination with Magic, he started calling Raz, Raziel, the angel who holds God magic, so I just neat little nicknames that our babysitter gave us way back when. They just kind of have stuck with us for forever. And I look back fondly at those times, hanging out with that babysitter, and hanging out with me, Darko, my brother, and those were some of my favorite memories. And we've just been those people that he started calling us jokingly at first for the rest of our lives. And to this day, Raz is Raz and Mythos is Mythos. So that's just how it's always been. Thank you for your question, Graham. Pete says, of course, Pete from Mini Warzone. Pete says, what are your thoughts and experiences with decals? So for the most part, I'm okay with decals. I'm not perfect with decals, but I'm pretty good with them. The really, really thin ones that are very, very intricate, I have a little more trouble with. But usually, since a Space Wolf head is a pretty thick and solid little icon, I'm usually pretty okay. I did get very spoiled when Shroud, and I was working on Shroud's Night Lord's army, and he had the special Forge World decals, were on much thicker, much more flexible decal transfers that were fantastic. Like, I could fold them and manipulate them with my hands, and they would sit perfectly without having lines or anything like that, and they were fantastic. And then so when I went from regular GW decals to Forge World, it was amazing. But when I went from Forge World back to regular decals, I hated it. It was the worst thing ever. In fact, doing the Dwarven Blood Bowl team for Shroud later on, I must have torn through, like, I don't know, 3 decals. So I had an awful time of it because they weren't as strong as I was used to working with the Forge World ones. He also showed the week before a huge table of dice to his viewers and asked if he had a problem. And I say, no, sir, you have a fantastic collection. And all the dice covering his entire table, he said that wasn't even all of them. That's just what he happened to have close by. Sir, you do not have a problem. You have a collection, and that is a fantastic dice collection. I, too, like to collect dice in just my Warhammer box. I keep a great big Crown Royal bag just stuffed full of dice. And even then, my favorites for the longest time, I was growing a collection of metal dice because I love the look of Chessex dice because those color blends look awesome, but Chessex tends to have tons of air bubbles, and I was getting frustrated with those. For the longest time, I used nothing but metal dice. But now, these new Dark Imperium dice, I really, really like those. Those feel good, they're solid, the rolls are always random, they're good rolls. I don't see any bubble problems, they're good quality dice. So I've just been using, I even ordered a second set of Dark Imperium dice. And I've just been using those lately, and those are my favorites now. But yeah, I love picking up more dice. I may even order a third set of Dark Imperium. What do I need 36 dice for? I don't know. But I just kind of want to, just because I have the same problem or collection kind of, as you, Pete, where I just love collecting more and more dice. Dice just seem like they go. Plus, also like you, I've got a variety. I've got a bunch of D10s that I use for White Wolf role playing. I've got a bunch of different sizes I use for Dungeons and Dragons. I just have a bunch of different dice that I like the look and feel of. But with all of them, I can roll very poorly because your Wolfbrother rolls tons of ones. If I had a game where the goal was to roll ones, I'd be okay. I'd be set. You could probably take me to Vegas. Black Country Wargamer, my man says, are there any YouTube channels that you miss? The most notable I can think of that doesn't still put out content is Joey Berry. Just because, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. Part of this is because, she's a lovely lady. She's into, wargaming and figures. And on top of that, she's got I have a type, dark hair, bright eyes, right? She's got that down. But on top of that, me being an American, we find many of your British accents, you know, very intriguing and sometimes very sexy. And Joey Berry definitely has that exotic sounding accent that is absolutely fun to listen to. I could listen to her talk about tying her shoes or whatever. Like, she could talk about the most boring thing. Hey, maybe I could get her to start talking about some of these safety courses or security courses I have to go through, because the trainings of those are always so boring. It's like they're being read by Ben Stein. But yeah, seriously, I could listen to Joey Berry teach or talk about anything, honestly. Miss Joey Berry's channel. I hated that towards the end there she was getting a bunch of harassment from, you know, pig-like guys. And so I apologize on behalf of my gender for those pig-like guys. I hate that she was getting harassment, but that is a channel I miss. And he also asked, do you prefer dedicated stores like GW or do you prefer independent ones? I'll be honest with you, I've never been to a dedicated, you know, store like GW. In fact, I've wandering into comic shops and game stores that are like, you know, well, comic shops and game shops that are basically like comic shops, you know, that have a variety of things. That's how I got into all this to begin with. And those are the ones that took the time to, you know, hey, come over here, try this game. You know, I think you'll like this or you'll like this. You know, I had no idea about this vast world I suddenly got myself into. But the independent game stores owners like Sid from Swords and Superheroes here in Kingwood, Texas, you know, they took the time to teach us the game, and this is what I think you'll like. You know, check this out, you know, and this is what this hobby is. And when I asked for painting tips, when I asked for assembly tips, you know, when I asked for list building, now he wasn't the most knowledge, you know, he was like no super expert, you know, on, okay, this is exactly what, get these things and win, which I wasn't interested in, you know, buy this, pay to play, win. But he wasn't the super expert, but he was generous with the knowledge he had. And I appreciated that, and it really, I don't know, got me interested. It was just like, I don't know, having a little, that independent store owner that helps guide you through the way. So also it helped me, you know, check out a variety of games, which was good for me too, to even get in, because I was playing Magic the Gathering when I got into wargaming. So, you know, all of this, it kind of came together. It just left me with a tendency to really like the independent game stores a little more. But I mean, I am saying that with a blind answer of never having been into a GW. Maybe I'll go into a GW and like it one day, I don't know. And then Comic Book Joe over at Green Stuff Games says, if painting is the way you relax, what do you do when painting stresses you out? So I have a little ritual I go through. First, there's a lot of swearing. Then, after a lot of swearing, then I'll start, you know, reciting lines of self-hate, you know, so mad at myself.
Every single time, I just cannot do faces. Why do I always do this? I'm just screwing up.
After that, then I'll call a freak to tell him how angry I am at myself.
Guess what, freak? I screwed up another face.
And after telling him how angry I am at myself, I'll tell him, like, you know, I just ruined art. You know what? Take my hands. I don't deserve to paint.
Dude, just take my hands from me, okay? These hands don't deserve to do art, okay? All these hands are good for is ruining art, okay? Just take them.
I don't know why I always jump straight to the hands, because I don't deserve to paint. I never go for the brushes or the paints or the models. I always tell him to take my hands. And then he'll talk me through it and I'll calm down. Or a little bit. Then I'll probably go play something in like a video game where I can kill a lot of people. Like Overwatch. And I'll just shoot a bunch of people in the face. Or Call of Duty. You know, just mow people down.
Die, 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 die.
And then I'll probably call Freak back. And say, yeah, I was just frustrated because And Freak is really good, by the way, at calming you down and providing a little logic. And then, you know, after pouting about it for a little while, I'll play a little more video games, and then I think I'm finally brave enough to do it again. And so, yeah, sometimes that next attempt where I go to paint the model again after that, and by the way, this could be over the course of like 20 minutes or 3 days. Once I actually walked away from painting for like a week. Yeah, and usually the next attempt is usually involving a good cold beer, you know, just wargaming in beer, hobbying it up. All right, so yeah, that's my answer. It's probably not the answers I was supposed to give, but it's honestly what happens. So, and that is everything I have for you as far as the Q&As go. Now, my question for the week is, Lily and I have really been enjoying the newest season of Voltron. And for a remake, it is amazing. Like, not even just for a remake, it is an amazing remake. You know, there's a ton of, you know, nods to the old while still being new and innovative and keeping the feeling of classic Voltron all together. And it's done an amazing thing. It's been adding depth to the existing story, existing characters, fleshing things out, and really just adding so much depth of flavor to the entire universe. And it impresses me because usually remakes are not as good as the original, right? So this is at least the second time I've been pleasantly surprised in that way. Another one was the Count of Monte Cristo. I love the new Count of Monte Cristo. I mean, I say new, it was like 10 years ago. But I love the remake of the Count of Monte Cristo because it is amazing. The build-up of the story and characters of Count of Monte Cristo, the choreography, oh my god, the swordplay is just phenomenal. And even like, even the clothes, the jacket, all of the Count of Monte Cristo's clothes, you know, I would love to have any, but the jacket at the end, the black trench coat with the purple lining, yes, I would love to have that coat. So anyways, those are two remakes that I find really enjoyable and as good, or if not better than, the original. So what about you guys? How do you feel about remakes? And are there any exceptional remakes that you think that are as good, if not better, than the original? Let me know down in the comments below, or let me know responding in your own video. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining Wolfbrother Weekly and accepting my explanation of where the Wolfbrother has been. If you liked this episode, then grab up an axe and smash that like button in the name of the Emperor. And of course, if you are not yet part of the pack, then freaking I would love to have you as part of the pack here on the Frost and Fist. So subscribe, guys. Thank you so much, guys. Stay frosty.